The full-time whistle has just blown in Turin. I am here in Twickenham, but my thoughts are at the full-time whistle of Italy against South Africa. Spoiler alert, if you're trying to avoid the score, it finished 14 points to 32, with South Africa hitting the accelerator and taking the game away from Italy late in the match, which I think is, well, that's certainly how I predicted it was going to go, how many predicted it was going to go. Italy might stick with South Africa for a bit, but ultimately the intensity and the depth of the South Africans would tell in the end. But other than that and the actual scoreline, I don't think many people saw that game going how it went. Lots and lots of talking points, lots and lots to get into. And so let's do it right now. Your thoughts in the chat down below. As I say, I am at Twickenham. It's just over half an hour till kick-off here. The ABs just doing their warm-out, line-out practice down in front. England up to the other end. It's a lovely day. The weather's been horrendous in the UK the last few days, but it's set fair, a little bit of moisture in the air, but hopefully set for a good game. I'll have my thoughts on the full-time whistle here in a little bit, but let's focus on the game in Turin. And what would the right, before I go through the game specifically, let's just have a think about some of the sort of general takeaways first. Yeah, I am going to have to get to the officiating. That is absolutely going to be one of the things, but I'll try not to make that the first thing I talk about, although unfortunately it's probably going to be the biggest talking point to come out of this game. I think fundamentally, despite the scoreline and a 18-point differential in the end, I think I did predict South Africa by 18. In fact, I can't remember what scoreline I predicted, but there you go. I think it might have been 38-20. But so I was kind of right, but I did not see it going like that. And that was an opportunity, even with 15 minutes to go. There was an opportunity for Italy to claim an historic win against the world champions, because they were playing for large chunks of that game with an extra man on the field, and they played some really good rugby too. And they were up against a much changed South Africa, who will have given Rassie Erasmus some things to think about ahead of the match. What else would I say? Yeah, they might not get an opportunity that good to win against South Africa in a long time. And they were still 18 points short, which is credit to South Africa. Manuel Zuliani is absolutely ace. Damian Fillemser is a cheat code sometimes, the way he can play rugby. I think Wales can take the positive, just sort of flipping it around the different nations. I think Wales can look at Italy and take some positives, because these performances from Italy, they beat Australia, and for large chunks of this game they went toe-to-toe with South Africa, and they've done that off the back of investing a lot of time in a crop of young players, which is starting to bear fruit. And so I would credit Italy, despite the fact they were well short in the end, over 80 minutes. What else would I say before I get into it? Look, there is no South African conspiracy. There is no anti-Springbok conspiracy. All teams get decisions that go against them. I've noticed the narrative that and fans from all countries do this. Oh, it's always against us. It's not. It's just the officiating is making everyone in World Rugby scratch their heads, and it's hurting every country at different times. I mean, the All Blacks, they're down in front of me now. They know that from the World Cup final, don't they? So, yeah. But there is a problem that needs to be solved here, and World Rugby hasn't got on top of it, and it feels like it's taken a step backwards. It felt like there was some calibration back to somewhere reasonable, but now we're having slightly baffling decisions. And let's go there straight away with Franco Mostert, carbon copy of last week, the number 5 for South Africa, with a full red card in the first half for a tackle that was deemed always illegal, because there was a tuck of one of the arms, a wrap with the other one, but the tuck of one of the arms meant it was, quote, always illegal. Therefore, no mitigation can be applied. Therefore, if there's any head contact, it's a straight red by the letter of the law. This is where, and there was quite a number of decisions, quite aside from this, where I just feel like rugby is being officiated on a flowchart. And this is the consequence of maybe us fans always saying, we want consistency, we want consistency. And so you end up with this flowchart system where it's tick boxes, rather than any sort of empathy and feel for the game. I could never imagine Nigel Owens giving that red card, or Wayne Barnes, because they would have looked at the situation and thought, this is a game of rugby, and Franco Mostert was clearly trying to make a legal tackle. Ethan Hooker was right next to him, so that impeded the ability to wrap his left arm. Also, we've made so much about head contact that that's driven the height of players down, and Franco Mostert did exactly what we've been asking players to do and drop their tackle height. He did. He wrapped the right arm. I would have been okay if it wasn't even a penalty and it was just a rugby incident. But if you are going to go down the his arm was tucked slightly, therefore it's illegal, fine. But it almost seems like a textbook decision of what a 20-minute red card was brought in for. As I say, I would have been okay with nothing. I'd have been okay with a penalty. I'd have been okay with a yellow. At a push, you could probably convince me maybe a 20-minute red card, although I don't really like it as that. But a full red card, come on. I'm briefly interrupting myself to remind you that I have a live show in Cardiff at the Walkabout pub just around the corner from the Principality Stadium on Saturday the 29th of November when the World Champions roll into Cardiff. All are welcome. If you go into the game or you're not and you fancy getting the match day started, it's the only game that's on that weekend, get your match day started at 11 a.m. in the Walkabout. I'll get breakfast on, we'll have some beers or brandy, whatever you fancy, and ice all the way up to the top, yeah, and then we'll have a good old chat with some special guests. You can get the tickets in a link in the description right now, and I'll pin it in the comments. I will see you in Cardiff. Back to the review of the game. And this is a consequence of the tick box flowchart system, where you cannot apply any, it's not just mitigation, you cannot apply any empathy for the fact that this is a physical match, physical game, played at incredibly high speed with dynamic body movement changes all the time. And I just think we've calibrated it all wrong. And we get to big games that really matter in World Cups, and I just really worry for it. So it's not an anti-South African decision, it's just a poor decision, in my humble opinion, by James Dolman and his team of officials. And there were other occasions. What was the one late on in the game? The one where, I can't remember, they were having a look at a clear out and it was just a rugby incident, and we're having 20 replays and TMO's getting involved for rugby incidents. So it's just, anyway, it's just ruining the spectacle for me. But let me talk about the actual rugby that there was. You can let me know. As it is, Lorenzo Canoni went off for a yellow card, which I think was the right decision, and I also understand why that was only a yellow card. I do understand. But lightning does strike twice. Same shirt number, 1 week apart, same decision, and that could be really costly for Franco Mostert. He's one of those ageing players who is probably on the cusp of being involved in the future plans for the box or not, and if he cops a ban and doesn't get a chance to play, that could be the last time he pulls on green and gold, potentially. I'm not suggesting it will be, but it could be, and that's huge. And also for Ben Jason Dixon, who was the guy that was sacrificed. Real shame for him after he's waited so long to play international rugby again. Anyway, really tight first half. Italy bringing the physical challenge that is an absolute must when you're playing against New Zealand. 3-3 it was after a couple of penalties traded. Then on the stroke of half time, it was Marco van Staden powering over for a try, and you thought, okay, they've weathered the storm, they'll push on in the second half, which is how it happened in the end. And you have to credit the South African defence as well. Down to 14 men. There's a part of me going, is Rassie Erasmus, just engineering situations where they have to practice playing a man down, because they're getting quite good at it, and their defence was really good. And bearing in mind, in July, when Italy were in town in South Africa, and also through the early part of the Rugby Championship, South Africa's defence was not great, but it looks really good now. And the way they held out for just a penalty, and then even in the second half, they only conceded the one try, 3 penalties. I mean, it's rock solid foundations that they've got. A good set piece and really good defence. I'm just going to show you the warming up. It's quite interesting as I go through some of the other game. 2 teams are warming up at the minute. The atmosphere is really good. But let me talk about the actual spectacle. I'm so looking forward to Jerusalem being played here. Probably about 5-10 minutes away from that as I record this. But it turns out opera doesn't suit the South African national anthem. I wonder if that was just a psychological game. Let's butcher their anthem and give ourselves a psychological edge, because the Italian anthem sounds so much better like that. And then, yeah, second half was where it got really interesting. Italy were meeting the physical challenge. Oh, that's right. In the first half, I just remembered another moment. There was a little bit of handbags. Do you remember this? A little bit of a scuffle. I think it was the 2 scrum halves, was it? And there was a penalty, and then it was reversed for handbags. Like, I always find it amazing that these top-level players manage to keep their aggression within the laws of the game, and it never bubbles over. You don't get fists flying anymore. And I find that amazing. So just when there is a little bit of handbags and a scuffle, just leave it alone. It just felt it was a bit picky, and the consequence of that is every breakdown, the players were all having a go at the ref. Did you see this ref? What about that ref? And it just gave it a not a very good feeling, made it frustrating. But South Africa, their physical challenge was met by Italy in the first half, 10-3 at half-time. And then Italy started playing a good territorial game. They got a contestable kick up. They hadn't been very good, but Louis Liner got one, tapped it back. And then an intelligent nudge through, playing very South African rugby against South Africa. The pressure was on. And then that Menoncello pass, to Zuliani pass to Menoncello, where Menoncello was in. That feels like a big moment in the game. They put that one down, let South Africa off the hook, although Marco van Staden gave away a yellow card. That was totally cynical, no arguments, that was a definite yellow card. But Italy only took the penalty. It's easy to say after the fact, but that moment, compare the moment where Italy had a penalty and South Africa were down to 13 men, and then a little bit later, South Africa were under Italy's posts, went for the full 7 and scored with Morne van den Berg. Italy did score their 1 try through Capuozzo, lovely inside ball. You don't see many inside passes, but it worked a treat. 15-20, breathless moments, back and forth. Ignacio Brex nearly intercepts to go ahead. But then South Africa are up the other end, and the pass could have gone from Esterhuizen to Grant Williams, but it goes down. Doesn't quite make it, would have been a try both directions. Bad error from Libbok. Grobbelaar gets a penalty and Libbok misses touch. And you think, right, this could be Italy's moment. Grant Williams scores, and then at the death with 2 minutes left, it was Ethan Hooker that scored as well. And the game, it went away. South Africa are so good at absorbing pressure and then putting the squeeze on. I've talked about them being like a boa constrictor. They may not get you straight away. They're like slow poison. Eventually, South Africa are going to get you, and it will be lights out. And it took a little bit longer than maybe some were expecting, but it happened in the last 10 minutes, and it was lights out. They will have to learn lessons, or World Rugby are going to have to get around a table and sort the tackling laws out. I found that unsatisfactory, I'll just say that. But I admire the resolve of South Africa. I admire the attacking ability of Italy, and when they're in full flow, they're so fun to watch. But just those top 2 inches, mentality monsters is a phrase that was used to describe South Africa in the week, and absolutely bang on. They deserve to win, and there we go. Now, I'm going to get back to watching and getting ready to watch this main event. I think this one is going down to the wire, and I cannot wait. The ABs, when you watch them warm up, it's amazing to see just how much time they spend